Good morning. I'm Becky Langrel, a member of the Fellowship's Board and Chair of our Social Action Committee. I'd like to welcome all of you joining us today, wherever you are, whatever your beliefs, and whoever you love. We invite you to look in today's order of service for announcements of activities and membership information. You can go to our website, UUFSMA.org, and find there a link to today's order of service, a link to easily sign on to our Zoom services, donate to our fellowship, and a link to our YouTube channel with recordings of today's and previous Sunday services. Please share our website with your friends and family too. Our breakout discussions after the service are a great place to reflect on today's message with old and new friends. Just stay connected after the postlude music ends and you'll be randomly assigned to a room. If only one or two people show up in your room, sit tight for a minute and you'll be moved to a larger group. Near the end of the service, we'll post a question to kick off your discussion. If you are a new visitor, we invite you to delay accepting your breakout room assignment so that our minister and membership team can chat with you for a few minutes in our main room. The Unitarian Universalist Side with Love campaign, which began last month and concludes next week, is an interfaith campaign sponsored by the UU Association. Today, we wish to proclaim our commitment to standing on the side of love for immigration. As people of faith, we are called to stand with the vulnerable and the oppressed. We are called to love our neighbors and welcome the stranger. For those of us who are U.S. citizens, we commit to seeking and sharing the truth of U.S. history, foreign policy, and trade treaties that have contributed to the migration to the United States. We call for new ways of being and relating that will give affected peoples greater agency and opportunities in their home communities. We call for an end to human rights abuse perpetrated against migrants and an end to laws that spur racial profiling and collectively punish foreign-born individuals living in the U.S. And we call for the passage of humane, comprehensive immigration reform that offers a pathway to citizenship for undocumented individuals residing in the U.S. And now to our fellowship president, Dr. Dan Neuspiel, for our COVID Task Force report.
Good morning. I add my welcome to all of you. I'd like to offer a few thoughts from our COVID-19 task force, a group of health professionals and care team members with expertise relevant to this pandemic. As Unitarian and Universalists, we have no creed or dogma, but we affirm and promote 7 principles. Today, I'd like to relate these to our time of COVID. We promote safe behaviors and wear masks to protect others from infection, since we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, the first principle. We advocate for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, the second principle, by exposing and opposing the racism and unequal impact of COVID-19 infections and deaths. We help each other through the stress of this pandemic by promoting the third principle, acceptance of one another and encouragement of spiritual growth. We affirm the fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning, by accepting evidence-based science and exposing the fallacies of anti-scientific conspiracy theories. We oppose the neo-fascists who prey on people's fears by promoting the fifth principle, the right of conscience, and the use of the democratic process. We support the sixth principle the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all by advocating for the fair worldwide availability of COVID vaccines and treatments. And finally, we understand that how each of us acts during this time affects everyone else. So we avoid Super Bowl parties and other super spreader events because we affirm the seventh principle, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Please stay safe. And now back to Tom.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Tom Rosiello, the minister of the fellowship. And as we do each morning, we'll begin our service by lighting a chalice. Each week, when we do that, and especially today on our Pledge Sunday, we are kindling a fire of commitment to values and principles, commitment to each other, commitment to a faith tradition, and to this particular fellowship. It's a commitment to do the work of justice and love together, to build the beloved community and inspire hope in every heart. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and heart ablaze, the future is bright and we can do amazing things. I invite you now to join in singing hymn number 1028, The Fire of Commitment. The words will appear on your screen momentarily, and note that they scroll up from the bottom.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living brings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion meet to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Please join us in reciting our spoken covenant. We respect the interdependent web of life and work for a just and peaceful world. We encourage the search for truth and meaning, strive for compassion in our relationships, and seek values that will benefit our lives and the lives of others. This is our covenant.
Respetamos todos los estilos de vida dentro de su red interdependiente y trabajamos por un mundo justo y pacífico. Alentamos la búsqueda de la verdad y la comprensión total. Nos esforzamos por mantener compasión en nuestras relaciones y buscamos valores que beneficien nuestras vidas y las vidas de los demás. Este es nuestro convenio.
We now enter into what's a very sacred time in our service, a time when our members and friends share significant joys, sorrows, and concerns with their community. For each one, we light a candle that represents that person, that thought, that prayer is with us this morning. If you'd like us to share a joy, sorrow, or concern in the future at a service, please email it to me. If you have something to share today that you've not sent to me, you can type it into the chat now. Today, we begin with a candle of support and healing for Shoshana Levinson, who continues to do well as she progresses with her chemotherapy treatment. This next candle is one of relief and joy for the several members of our congregation, many of whom we've lit a candle for over the past few weeks and months, who are either fully recovered from COVID or almost so. We remember any of those in the San Miguel community who are still suffering from COVID, and we send them our healing thoughts and prayers. Joseph Plummer lights this next candle for his daughter, Dora McGovern, who unexpectedly underwent surgery yesterday after complications following the birth 3 weeks ago of her third child, Benjamin. We send healing thoughts and prayers to Dora and well wishes to Benjamin as well. We light a candle of both joy and concern. Joy that progress is being made, getting more and more vaccine administered to people, but concern that we not become complacent and let our guard down, just as the end of this horrible pandemic begins to appear. We can still save lives by following those precautions our COVID team has recommended to us. This is a birthday candle for Phyllis Culp, who turns 75 years old today and is spending her birthday traveling to California in search of a COVID vaccine, and also to both Phyllis and King, who will celebrate their 55th wedding anniversary later this month. We now light a candle of sorrow. Many of you, members and friends, ask that we light a candle of remembrance for Tim Hazel, who passed away this week at the age of 66, and of sympathy and support for his wife Louise. Tim was the director of the Pro Musica Youth Orchestra and worked tirelessly to provide young Mexican musicians with the opportunities to perform and improve their skills. Some of you describe Tim as a Renaissance man, an artist, painter, musician, intellectual, deep thinker, and a friend who was passionate about all his endeavors. His passing is a great loss to the entire San Miguel community. We light this final candle for all those joys, sorrows, or concerns that have been shared in the chat this morning, and for all those that are held deep in our hearts but remain unexpressed today. Today, in our time of meditation and prayer, we'll hear the music of Johann Sebastian Bach. Bach was a very religious man. He felt that his music came to him as divine inspiration, and he saw his work as capturing that so it could be shared with others, so that others might have that experience. He once said, "It is the special power of music to move the heart." As we carry the joys, sorrows, and concerns of this community into our time of meditation and prayer, we're guided by the beautiful music of Bach. May you experience its peace, divine inspiration, and its power to move your heart.
Good morning. I'm Trish Snyder, a member of the Pledge team, along with Carolyn Samsarian and Christy McHugh. And I'm delighted to tell you that we are doing really well. 73 people have stepped up to make their early pledge, and we have received so far towards our $90,000 goal, $70,000. Thank you so much. Now, we're not done. So to help you and help us reach our goal, we've invited the chairman of our finance committee, Margot Johnson, to say a few words. Margot is a 4-year resident of San Miguel. She has a long career in banking, newspaper writing, and Chamber of Commerce management. And she's here today with a message and a poem to encourage you to pledge to this fellowship. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. I wanted to say a few words before I read my poem about the uniqueness of this fellowship. I've been involved with many churches throughout my 78 years, and I have been amazed to learn that this fellowship gives 50% of our income to local NGOs. This is unheard of, or at least it's new to me. We are generous beyond words, and whether it is with our pesos or our countless hours of volunteering, we give and give and give, and I'm honored to be a part of such a generous and loving group. I'm grateful for your open hearts, your determination to help, and your willingness to graciously embrace this community with all its needs and challenges. You may never know who you've helped through your pledge, but please be assured your small or large giving is appreciated and celebrated. And here's the poem I wrote entitled Pledge Because It Helps. Do you want to help but don't know how? It's easier when you do it now. Do you want to give but wonder where? This fellowship answers for all who care. Expats trek to San Miguel, finding great beauty in which to dwell, but hidden beneath the surface sight is poverty, shortages, and paupers' plight. Our fellowship faces our neighbors' needs, reaching out with our pesos and service by deeds. Each gift proclaiming our love and desire to sustain and improve without hate or ire. Gladly and gratefully, we generously offer from what may perhaps be our own mere coffer. Gladly and gratefully, we generously offer. Together we celebrate our fortunate wealth, giving to those with fragile health. It takes each of us to improve a life, to ease the world from damaging strife. And we nurture each other with tender support, meeting, sharing from our separate ports. Through Zoom we commune and long for a touch, exchanging ideas, feelings, and such. So give of your time and all you could spare. Please pledge as you can to show you care. Your coins and your actions will carry so far because helping our neighbors is just who we are.
Thank you, Margot. I'm particularly drawn in by 2 lines of your poem. You write, each gift proclaiming our love and desire to sustain and improve without hate or ire. Our love for each other, our love for justice, for our community, for our world, that is what guides us to be generous and giving. If love is indeed our guide, we will always be generous people. And indeed, it is with love, and only with love, that we can change the world. So I invite you now to join in affirming that in song, hymn number 131, Love Will Guide Us. The words will appear soon.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way
Many of you know, this fellowship dedicates 50% of our budget to support worthy NGOs serving our local community. Today, we are highlighting Jóvenes Adelante. Of the 25 to 30 top students that Jóvenes accepts per year to receive academic scholarships, we proudly sponsor 4 throughout their 4 to 5 years of university study. And starting last fall, we have 4 new students. Since they have now completed their first semester, here are some quotes from 2 of them that will help us get to know them just a little. Angela Alexa, studying economics, industrial relations, and Japanese, says, "Everything I did in the year focuses on the footprint I want to leave in the world, which is to have a better world in all aspects, especially gender equality and to stop climate change, which can allow us to live many more years in good condition." Angela's mentor states she is going to be a very successful young lady. Mitzi Pamela, who is going for a degree in international relations, states, "When you have something inside that makes you vibrate, that drives you, that recharges you with energy, you're unstoppable. In my case, it's the goals. I have to be someone and achieve everything I want." Her mentor concurs, saying, Mitzi believes it has been a very productive first semester for her. Since the UUFSMA aims to leave lasting positive impacts on our local community and is committed to a long-lasting vision of a healthier Mexico in all ways and on all levels, we consider our investment with our scholarships for students with Jóvenes Adelante to be one of our ongoing achievements. In the coming 60-second pause, please give generously to allow us to continue supporting worthy NGOs like Jóvenes and these Sunday services. Information on donating will appear on your screen.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and by this we live.
It's an honor and a privilege to speak with you again this Sunday morning on this Pledge Sunday. You know, there is no question that we are living in extraordinary times. Times of struggle, of fear, of uncertainty, of division and hate and competing values. You know, the events of these past weeks in the U.S. Capitol reveal that for many of our elected officials and the people they represent in the United States, it's just not important to condemn and take action against those who foster racism, anti-Semitic and anti-Islamic hate, and for those who condone and foster violence and spread lies and truly crazy misinformation. These events are lows in the moral climate of the United States. And what's happening in the United States is not just of significance to that one country. For when the democratic values in the country that has held itself out as an example of democracy to the world are threatened, they're threatened everywhere. We are in a time when the very core values of our democratic institutions no longer seem to matter to people, including those who are elected by the very processes they prescribe. It is a very profound moral crisis where power matters more than truth and right, and values and principles are just easily jettisoned in the interest of holding on to power. And of course, all of this in the midst of the COVID pandemic, which reminds us daily of the uncertainty and fragility of our own life. The thousands of deaths every day can't help but cause us to worry about our own health and that of our family and friends. For most of us, this threat causes us to examine even bigger questions like how we're spending the time that we do have on this planet. This time of pandemic, with all the fears we have and all the restrictions imposed upon us, has forced us to live a life quite different from the kind of life that most of us were living previously. And although we are blessed to still have meaningful contact with others through Zoom and other similar platforms, we rarely venture out of our homes, and then only when necessary. Many things with which we filled our time in the past no longer are available to us now. But you know, perhaps there's an opportunity in these existential threats. Perhaps the extremes of this past year have caused us to cause certain things to become more clear to us, to think more clearly. And for most of us, the pace of life itself has changed. For me, that's resulted in more time to think, but without the distractions I had become so accustomed to, more time to really focus my thinking, and I suspect that is the same for many of you. All these experiences that weigh heavily upon us now, that the spread of that deadly virus, the attacks on democracy and basic human values, and let us not forget that other existential threat of climate change, all as well as those things that you are personally experiencing in this unsettling time, raise many questions, all questions worthy of our attention. But I believe that they can all be reduced to one question, and I believe that that question is the right question for each of us to ask on this Pledge Sunday. And that question is, what really matters? And I mean that as a personal question. What really matters to you, in your heart, in your mind? I'm not talking about just giving lip service to what we think should probably matter to us all, but to what really matters to you, to me. I've been pondering that question for a while, and when I'm on that sort of path, I often like to ask others of their thoughts. And over the past couple of weeks, I've done that with many folks, including some of you. And almost to a person, those I asked agreed that these extraordinary times have caused them to address serious questions and help them to clarify their thinking on many issues. Many of you and those beyond our community have shared how much this time has been a time of personal and spiritual growth. You've gained a new understanding of human connectedness on a global level and on a very personal level, where you've placed a new emphasis on relationships with family and friends, and even the importance of opening your arms and your hearts wider to be more inclusive in your relationships. You have found that the creation and sustaining of beloved community matters even more in these disconnected times, but also that it will continue to matter even beyond the pandemic. You have told me that it is human connectedness, and beyond that, not just human, but connectedness to all life, to our friends in the animal world and to our planet, that has become more powerful to you in this time. Whether it's with your friends, neighbors, a person you pass on the street, or with your beloved pet, or plants in your garden, or a tree in the park, you are feeling deeper kinship. Also, many have told me that they feel more connected with their own bodies and are taking better care of themselves. And that too matters. These difficult times have also been sacred times. Many of you have found new importance in spiritual practice. In our gathering together like this for worship each week, and in regular meditation or prayer, or in walks with a partner or a friend, or alone where you take in the beauty of nature, you've discovered things about yourself. For some, it has been that you actually need less and that therefore have more to share, and that removing the clutter of your life is liberating, and that sharing with others in itself has become a deeper spiritual practice. Many report that they've experienced real spiritual growth in new ways and greater self-understanding in these extraordinary times. And I think that really matters. Others of you have told me that it's been a time when you've embraced new issues of justice or equality, or old ones with greater commitment and passion. That the importance of living a life of values and principles, conveying those values and principles to the next generation, is what really matters. For many, the virus has brought home an understanding of the destructive impact we human beings have on our planet, and at the same time brought some rejoicing in the benefits of less carbon emissions during the pandemic. Those, combined with changes in U.S. leadership and policy, rejoining the world and battling climate change, has brought new hope that saving our planet is possible. And to that end, many of us daily try to walk more lightly on our Mother Earth. And yes, that really matters. I think it's fair to say that these extraordinary times have been times where we all gained greater clarity around that question of what really matters. So why then do I think it's important that we ponder this question on Pledge Sunday? Well, because this institution, this community, this fellowship is where we nurture, where we support, where we grow those things that matter. That is what we do. I believe that the things we do together as members of this fellowship are really important, not just for the folks gathered here, but for our community and even for the world. I know what we stand for is important, and what we do now and what we can do in the future with your support really does matter. That's why we need to address this topic on Pledge Sunday. Simply put, to do those things that matter requires generous financial support. Here we together live those things that matter. We remind each other of that regularly, and we encourage each other to live our lives in ways that promote it. And therefore, the more we invest of our time, of our talent, and our financial resources here, the more things that really matter for you, for me, for our UU community, for the San Miguel community, for the world, become reality. You know, you've heard the saying that money talks, and we often think about that in a negative way, perhaps in the sense of abusing power or position. But there's a positive interpretation of that too. Jesus was one of those spiritual leaders that understood that, and in his words in the Gospel of Matthew, he put it this way: "Where your treasure lies, there will your heart be also." Where you put your money is an expression of your faith, even of your love, and it's an expression of what really matters to you. You know, I think sometimes we undervalue the worth of our faith tradition. Perhaps we don't often enough take note of those things that happen among us, the things that happen because of us, that matter to the world, or matter maybe just to one person. I want to tell you a story, a true story. It involves one of my colleagues, the Reverend Stefan Johansson, and he told this story at a conference I attended several years ago. Stefan told that he was at a gathering of people, rather informal gathering, and they were discussing things, and in the discussion came up what one of them had seen posted on Craigslist. That person reported he saw a posting of a person that said they were looking for a different kind of religion, one that accepted them as they are without trying to change, a church that didn't force them to accept certain beliefs. It would be a religion where people from all kinds of theological backgrounds could come together for worship. It would be a spiritual place that encouraged you on your journey for truth and meaning, that promoted equality and justice. Well, you get the picture. And of course, needless to say, Stefan took the opportunity to tell this group about Unitarian Universalism. But when he went home that night, he was thinking about that person who posted the question on the website. So he went online to Craigslist and he actually found the posting. And he wrote to the person to tell her about Unitarian Universalism. And she wrote back. She told him that she was a high school senior in a very conservative town in Georgia, where the Southern Baptist Church was the most liberal church in town. She told him that when she read his letter to her, it was the first time in her life that she did not feel alone in her beliefs. She could not believe that there was an entire religion like the one he described, and she asked him to send more information, but to please send it in an unmarked brown envelope. And he did. He lost touch with her after a while, and in his capacity working for the UUA, he would often travel speaking at services and meetings around the country. And he would sometimes tell that story about this young woman in Georgia. And often people would come up to him and tell him, "Oh, that's my story. I couldn't believe that there was a religion like this either." One day, several years later, after he spoke at a particular UU congregation, a young woman holding a small child, a member of that church, walked up to him smiling and said, "That's my story." And of course, he assumed that this was another person who could identify with the story of that young woman in Georgia. He was about to turn and speak to another person when she said, "No, that is my story. And I came to thank you for saving my life." You know, some religious conservatives like to criticize us and say, "What kind of religion are you if you don't offer people salvation?" Really? What do you think we offered that teenage girl in Georgia? We don't worry so much about offering it in some possible afterlife, but time and time again, we offer it here and now. Maybe you've been saved by Unitarian Universalism. maybe even by this fellowship. And oh, don't squirm with the theological salvation language. Instead, be proud of what we do. We do have a saving message, and we offer it to this world. And maybe, just maybe, in some way, the story of that teenage girl in Georgia is your story too. And maybe it can be the story for many more, not just in Georgia, but right here in Mexico, in our community. And maybe for some who don't yet know what we're about. Ours can be a saving faith, and our faith tradition really does matter in people's lives. Folks, we're on a journey. We're moving along together on a path that I believe matters a lot. It matters to one person who's not accepted for who they are. It matters for a whole world threatened by climate change. It matters to a child that gets medical care or a college education. It matters for democracy and the upholding of principles and values that support it. It matters to a lonely person among us or a dying person who feels the love and the support of a community. It matters for children who learn values to guide them on a path to a good life. There's so much that we can do that matters, and we walk together on that journey. So here's the invitation to you. Each step we take brings about something more that matters. Today, with each of your pledges, we take another step. If you've never pledged before, we ask you to take a first step. If you've been supportive of this fellowship for a while and have the means to do so, we ask you to take the step to increase your pledge, to step it up. We're reminded of that in this beautiful logo that Denise created for this year's campaign. We see the open hands of community, this community, out of which grows a strong tree with many leaves of diverse colors. That is who we are. That is what we do when we're at our best. So please, take your first step in supporting us, or take one more step in a long line of many steps. And if times are rough for you and you can't take a financial step right now, take a step with your heart and pledge your love and compassion to this fellowship and all that matters. On this journey, everyone's next step is important. And now let's come together in song to conclude this sermon. The words will appear on your screen in just a moment.
One more step, we will take one more step, till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word, we will say one more word, till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer, we will say one more prayer, till every prayer is shared by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song, we will sing one more song, till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song.
Thank you for being with us this morning. We hope you'll stay with us for a time of sharing and conversation with other participants in this morning's service. After the postlude, you'll be invited to join a breakout room. Just click on it and you'll be randomly assigned. It's a great way to see old friends and meet new ones in a small group setting. And again, as was mentioned earlier, if this is your first time with us, or you've just been joining us for a short time, weeks or months, I and some of the hospitality team would love to meet you and extend our personal welcome. Just stay in the main room and don't join a breakout room, and we will be put together. I also want to thank our pledge team and our staff who assisted them for once again pulling together this annual campaign. Without their work, there would be no UU Fellowship of San Miguel. And sincerest thanks to those who've made a pledge as part of the pre-campaign or this morning. And if you've not yet done so, please do so this week. We need your help, especially in these times when we can't receive contributions by passing the plate at an in-person service. There's so much we can do together. We need your help now to take the next step on the path to pursuing again and again what really matters. Also, I hope you'll join us next week when the Reverend Walter LaFleur, a minister of color who found Unitarian Universalism in the congregation I served previously and with whom I worked on his journey to ministry. He'll be discussing our principles and the greater importance he places on our seventh principle, that is, our interconnectedness over the more individual-oriented first principle, in a sermon he entitles, "The Last Shall Be First." He finds support for this in the Universalist side of our history. Universalism celebrated its 250th anniversary just recently, and its essential teachings will be the theme of our service the week after that. So we look forward to seeing you next week and every week. And now, go in peace. Serve others with joy. Live a life of generosity. Give generously of your love, of your talents, of your wealth, and do your best to make this broken world a better place. And now we'll extinguish the flame, but not the light. That we'll carry with us as our guide as we face the challenges and the opportunities of the week ahead.
Living in a world so cold, with so many lost all hope, and they don't know where to go. We need a miracle to recognize the power of giving from the heart. It'll go so far. Looking around me, all I see is creation longing for love, hoping assurance and a friend, someone to trust. Humanity, it's an emergency. Look all around you, can you see what I see? We need more generosity. We need more generosity. More love for you and her and me. We need more generosity. Yeah. Give what you have to someone. Happiness, love, and trust our possibilities. And the reality we're desperately in need of. Anybody else in need of a change of heart and mind? We gotta heal the world in harmony with all of mankind. All I see is a sense of this community, broken, afflicted memories. We need love, we need it. Humanity, it's an emergency. Look all around you, can you see what I see? We need more generosity. We need more generosity. More love for you and her and me. We need more humanity. We need more generosity. We need more generosity.